a TV producer, and I've been working in the South African film and TV industry for almost 20 years. And for that time, I have produced content for a lot of different people. So a couple of years ago, I had an idea for my very own TV show. And I started working on a show about 3 crazy actresses who decide to create a reality show to rejuvenate their flagging careers. In the show, they travel from wine farm to wine farm, interviewing chefs and vintners, flirting outrageously and generally causing chaos. So I was looking for opportunities to get my show made, and I came across a pitching competition at a local film market. And at this pitching competition, if I got into the finals, I would have the opportunity to pitch my show to a panel of experts who would be able to give me the advice and contacts to get my show on the road. There was one small problem with getting into the finals of this show. I had to create a 60-second pitch video of myself giving an elevator pitch for my show. Might come as a surprise to you here, but I'm not really that comfortable being on this side of the camera. So I had to do the video. So I put on my big girl panties, enlisted the help of my business partner, Alan, and we gave it a go. Well, I tell you, the camera started rolling. I saw that little flashing red light. I was like a deer in the headlights. Everything I wanted to say flew out of my mind. My mind was a blank, and I just stood there blinking stupidly in the light. Of course, Alan and the cameraman were literally rolling on the floor with laughter, which didn't help at all. So I racked my brains for any alternative to me having to make this video. Maybe someone else could do the video for me. But no, the rule said I had to do it myself. Eventually, with 2 days to go until the deadline that this video was due, I came up with the rather brilliant idea of using my rather dismal on-camera performance to promote the show. So I enlisted the help of a writer friend to create a little script promoting the show by sending up my useless performance. And off we took ourselves to a nearby restaurant that had a bit of a Winelands feel to it to film. As soon as the pressure was off for me to be all slick and professional, it actually wasn't so bad. And we had quite a lot of fun filming it. Of course, I was predictably mortified by the end result, but everybody else seemed to think it was hilarious. So off I went to this pitching competition, which I did get into the finals of, by the way, armed with my ridiculous video. The judges were suitably impressed, and they did give me the advice and contacts I needed to get my show on the road. The reason I'm telling you the story is that my struggles with being on camera have a lot in common with my struggles of taking up any kind of leadership role that's remotely visible. In retrospect, I think my issue was not so much with being on camera as it was about making a fool of myself in public. You see, leadership requires you to make decisions that affect other people in quite an important way, affecting their well-being and livelihood. It also leaves you open to criticism and very, very public failure. So you might ask how it is that somebody who's not that crazy about being on camera ended up doing a TEDx talk, where a video of me doing a talk is going to be uploaded to the internet for everyone to see. Well, firstly, I am a strong believer in putting yourself in situations that stretch you, stepping out of your comfort zone. And secondly, I figured out a few little strategies that help me deal with my feelings of fear and my feelings and the fear of being made a fool of in public. I'm going to share 3 of them with you today in the hope that if you also struggle a little bit with the fear of making a fool of yourself, and if that's stopping you from stepping up and taking up any kind of leadership role that might be offered to you, maybe something I say will help. So, a couple of years ago, after working for employers for a few years, I started my own business. The South African economy was just in that stage of post-94 euphoria, And in retrospect, starting this business was suspiciously easy. Regardless, I found a fledgling company that I thought had a lot of promise. And as a bonus, it came with a fantastic accountant who would take over all the things that I really didn't want to do and didn't like doing, like financials and compliance. At first, it went really well. We grew steadily, we achieved our monthly targets, we were making a name for ourselves in the TV industry, and then, out of nowhere, we were hit by the worldwide global recession. Literally from one month to the next, my turnover dropped by 90%. I had no idea what to do. I had no experience running a business, and I was absolutely terrified. It's very tempting when you're scared to just put off making decisions, because what if you make the wrong decision? But sometimes the price of not making a decision is far worse than making a decision that might not be 100% correct. After a little while of me hiding my head in the sand, I realized that I literally did not have enough money to pay salaries at the end of the month. So off I went to my accountant for a bit of advice, which is what I should have done in the first place. And with her help, I aggressively downscaled my business, and we survived. But what I learned was that being decisive and taking action is so important. You cannot put off those decisions. If you put off those decisions, then you risk losing everything. But that leads me to my next point. It's very, very hard to make decisions if you don't have the information you need to make those decisions. When I was at school, I really, really hated maths. It was boring, and I was terrible at it. So as I mentioned before, when I started my business, I delegated everything financial to my accountant because it was boring and I was terrible at it. Everything went well at first. She put in some great systems. She was doing all the invoicing. Everything looked like it was going well. And then unknown to me, she developed a brain tumor. This brain tumor affected her business and in turn my business in quite a severe way and caused a huge amount of financial and compliance problems. And I had no idea what to do. Because I had relied on her to do all of that stuff for me, I literally didn't even know where to start. And every time I got a piece of correspondence that had the word SARS in it, I had a mild panic attack. And in that period of panic and stress, I came across a link on Twitter for a fully sponsored women's leadership program. I applied and was accepted, and over the course of the year, I learned the skills I needed to finally get a handle on my financial and compliance issues. And I also learned that when you don't have all the answers, there are just so many resources out there to help you. So apply for that online course. Get onto mentorship programs. Do your own research, but just make sure that you have the information you need. Another thing that I've found is very key to my success is confidence. You might say confidence is key. I look around at the leaders that I know and admire, and I'm always amazed at how confident they seem to be. And this sort of feeds into those inner critic voices that Laurie was mentioning this morning, telling me that I'm not good enough, because if I was a good leader, I would have confidence in my ability to lead. But what I've figured out is that every leader has doubts, with the possible exception of Donald Trump. But most people have a little strategy to deal with that doubt, and my strategy is that I know if I can fake confidence for the first 10 minutes of any presentation, has it been 10 minutes yet? Then I'll be okay. Case in point, this wine show that I was telling you about at the beginning, I finally got to the point where a local TV channel wanted to broadcast it next year. And my final hurdle was a presentation to a room full of network executives, all of whom had decades more experience than I did in producing successful TV shows. To say I was intimidated would be an understatement. A friend suggested popping into the bathroom and practicing my power pose in front of the mirror. However, it felt silly, and I did get a lot of strange looks from the other people in the bathroom. So So I had to go to plan B, which was the fact that I was super passionate about my show, and I thought I knew what I was talking about. So I stood outside that room, I took a deep breath, and I imagined I was Shonda Rhimes. It worked. Don't judge. I went into that presentation. I had keyed myself up. I had practiced my confidence, and I launched into my presentation. And a funny thing happened. As I started presenting, I realized that these people were actually listening to me, and they were engaged, and they were laughing in all the right places. And as I relaxed into my presentation, I felt the energy in the room lift, and the presentation went very well. And that ridiculous video I talked about earlier, that ridiculous video has been my best sales tool ever. That ridiculous video convinced a room full of network executives to broadcast my show. That ridiculous video got me an agent and got an Emmy award-winning showrunner to be attached to my project. I bet you guys want to see that video, don't you? Okay, I'm going to show you a snippet. The least embarrassing snippet. Geez, Zoe, is this not a little bit over the top?
There's a show about wine. I don't know, yeah, maybe. Just take a sip.
Take one. God, that was disgusting. Camera, I'm a f***ing producer for f***ing sakes.
It's fine, Kirsty. Just stop swearing so much, maybe.
What's not entirely real? Pitch video, take 13. 22. Maximum amounts of drama. As the saying goes, in vino veritas. Yes, a little bit clumsy there. So I guess my message to you today is that leadership often requires us to step outside our comfort zone. And when we do step outside our comfort zone, it puts us on a path that leads us to some very interesting places. So don't be afraid. Take that step into the unknown. Be decisive. Arm yourself with knowledge. And if you can't be confident, fake it until you can. You see, fear is temporary. Regret is forever. Thank you.